Good afternoon. We're going to go through a series of exercises for stress management. And what I have done is I have taken different areas of ways to manage your stress. And so you're going to get an introduction. Some of those you'll actually be able to go home and start using. Some of them you might have to go get some additional training, but it will introduce you to it and you can see if that fits you. So mindfulness. The University of Miami has an Institute of Research for Mindfulness, and it is not at the medical school, it is at the law school. And the director of it is a law professor. And the other place where mindfulness is spreading rapidly is on Wall Street. Okay? So here are two groups, two populations that when it comes to their health are more interested in what are the immediate results and how do they affect me, okay? Rather than what is the research and the theory behind that. And since mindfulness is relatively simple to learn, and the research has shown that if you use a 90-second practice of mindfulness 5 times a day, so you have to kind of figure out, 1, when could you do it? 2, when would it be most useful? You can start to have your body automatically reset to calm or resourceful. And so I thought because of where it's going into places where people have very high stress jobs, that would be an easy one, and it's 90 seconds to start to incorporate. So mindfulness is different than trance or hypnosis, although you could start out the same way, because mindfulness, you want to shut out the external. You want to focus internal. You want to focus on your breath. Now, one of the things that's going to happen if you focus on your breath is you're going to get all these thoughts that come through your mind. Okay? And that's exactly what you want to have happen. Just let them pass by and come back to your breath, whatever they are. So you actually start to take some of the thoughts, the self-talk, and we're going to look at another way to approach self-talk in addition to this one. Do it in such a way that you set up yourself, you're peaceful, you're calm, you're relaxed. So it's actually better to do this sitting than lying down. So you don't need a couch, you don't have to do it in your bed. Sitting is really a good way to do it. You want to have your 2 feet planted on the ground. So if everybody could do that. Yeah. Now, where are your hands? Your hands can be on your lap. Your hands could be on the table. You want your hands to be either up or down, whichever way is most comfortable for you. What you're looking for is to eliminate distractions by your physicalness. So the way you're sitting or moving, okay? Now, some people do mindfulness training with their eyes open, and most people tend to do mindfulness training with their eyes closed. Okay? Since this is a public setting, if you're not comfortable with having your eyes closed, please feel free to leave them open. Okay? So, good. Allow yourself first, okay, to get us started. Open your arms, big stretch, up, inhale. Yeah, so you become aware of your breath. One more stretch higher, and slowly bring it down, let it relax. Exhale, get comfortable. Okay. And begin your process. And I will talk very softly through your process. We're going to do this for approximately 90 seconds. Okay. And just notice whatever thoughts you have, and as if they could just float in front of you. and come back to your breath. And you might notice where your breath is. You might notice if your breath is high up, almost in your throat. You might notice if your breath is shallow. And when you're doing this, there is no right or wrong way for your breath to be. It's just for you to notice, pay attention. Yeah. Some of you may already be into breathing. You might automatically, when you do this, go into a belly breath, and that's fine. And if you don't know what a belly breath is, a belly breath is when you inhale and you let your stomach muscles relax, and then you exhale as you pull your stomach muscles in. It's all very simple. It will let your heart balance, find an easy rhythm. Practicing this will help lower your blood pressure if it's too high. If while you're doing this you notice tension in your body someplace, allow the breath to go there. As if you could breathe into your shoulders or your spine. As if your breath could go all the way down into your feet, your toes. That's right. Some of you may actually want to feel like you want to move a little. And let yourself move and come back to quiet and still. And again, notice whatever thoughts, whatever noises you hear, let them become part of what makes it easier for you to get calm, to be centered, to let the thoughts drift by, and let your focus again come back to your breath. The breath is the center of energy, the center of life. And perhaps you even have a place inside you from where the breath can then spread out throughout the body. That's good. And perhaps some of the chatter in your head begins to slow down. That's fine. Or for some of you, it may speed up. And then let yourself come back once again to your breath. And I'm going to let the last 15 seconds of this simply be quiet. All right. Allow yourself to become aware again that you're in a room with lots of other people. Some of you might want to shake out your fingers and your hands or move your feet. Okay? And bring your awareness back into the room. Okay. Any observations, or I can't see you from up there. Any comments or observations on mindfulness? Yes. Doesn't it when you're quiet? Right? It actually might have been closer to 2 minutes. Right? I just noticed something that sometimes we go, oh my God, where'd that 2 minutes go? Where'd that 90 seconds go? Oh, I'm in a rush. All right? When you settle down, it can seem like a long time. When you start practicing it, it goes very quickly.
I was just going to say, I took a class
Mm-hmm.
Because my doctor told me I have an ADD sort of brain and who's squirrel shiny. You know, I'm all over the place sometimes, and I didn't want to do anything like medications or things like that. It just didn't seem like something I wanted to do. And my
Yes, and one of the things when mindfulness first came, oh my God, it was 45 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes. These were the kind of targets, and what they have learned through research is frequency is more important than duration. How many times you put yourself in that calm, resourceful state, how many times you get yourself centered over the day is more important than how much time you spend there. So we can all breathe a breath of relief on that one. So all you need is, 90 seconds. It's good to have a timer for some of these things so you don't get lost. Good.
Is there a difference between mindfulness and meditation?
For some, yes. For others, no. So mindfulness has become a more acceptable term in the business world. And so lots of business people are getting very involved in mindfulness rather than meditation. Meditation, sometimes people wonder what they're supposed to be meditating about. And for some meditations, there is a focus. So this is mind, body, and soul. And for some people, meditation is more spiritual. It's more about using that experience of meditating to connect. Yes?
There are some religions that don't like you to say meditation,
Mm-hmm.
so I always say mindfulness.
Right. You want to use the words that the person you're speaking to can listen to. Oh. Okay. So any other questions? Because that one is just something you can take home and then do. And where did I put my clicker? Oh. Is it?
In your other inside?
No. Oh my goodness. Anybody see my clicker? Oh, right here. Sorry. Okay, self-talk. This is one of my favorites. So how many of you say terrible things to yourself about yourself? Yes. So I've been doing this a long time, and I find that most people have been very critical. In fact, some of you say things to yourself that you would get very upset if somebody else said it to you. Okay. So here's a simple Here's a simple technique. Okay? You have a set of submodalities that go with your self-talk. You have volume. So how loud is it? On a scale of 1 to... So pick one of your critical self-talks, one that makes you feel bad when you say it to yourself. Okay? And how loud is that? On a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, so we have an 8 over here. Anybody else? 7? Like a 5. Okay. Sometimes the louder it is, the more disturbed you are by it. Sometimes it could be very soft, almost like a whisper, but it could still be very disturbing. Okay, what's the tone? What's the tonality? Sarcastic. Harsh. We're even condescending to ourselves. So we're harsh, we're condescending, we're sarcastic. What else? Angry. Yes. When I did a research study on this, and people actually got upset with me because I listed, just as a researcher, the kinds of things that people said. And some people curse at themselves, so I just listed that. And they were like, oh, how could you use that kind of language in that's what people said. Okay. So we have volume, we have tonality. How bad does it make you feel? Pretty bad. And again, on a scale of 1 to 10, but just to notice. Now, if this voice was in a little speaker box, where would it be located? Would it be located on the right side, the left side? Which ear are you hearing it in? Is it behind your head, in front of your head? Does it come from a speaker in front? Is it inside? Right in the middle. Where else do we have it? If it were a speaker, where would that speaker? Right there. Notice how close these tend to be. Front and center. Another front and center. Anyone else? Okay. So I suggest that you do these exercises as we go along, even if you don't share, so that you have an idea of what the experience is. So now what I want you to do, one, if you have the location, I just want you to remember that. I want you to play with the volume, okay? Decrease the volume or increase if it's too low, okay? Until it changes how it makes you feel. Now, for some of you, if it gets louder, it might make you feel worse. Okay? For some of you, it may make you laugh. Okay? So just change the volume up and down until you can find a place where it makes you feel better. Not as good as you can, probably, but better than you were feeling. And then let us know what you did. Anybody have difficulty changing the volume? Yeah, sometimes the volume is stuck to the location or the tonality. So if you're having difficulty changing the volume, change the tonality. If it was sarcastic, make it straight information. Just matter of fact kind of information, neutral tone. Ah, kinder. Sometimes when you change the modality, you'll actually change the content of the message to yourself. Wouldn't that be great? Because this pattern that you have of talking to yourself this way is a learned pattern. You don't have to do it. You just learned it. Somebody probably talked to you that way, or you heard it on television. You recorded it, you put it inside. You know, for the longest time, I had my dad yelling at me in my head. He didn't have to yell at me anymore. I could do it for him, right? But it wasn't helping me. Okay, now I want you to change the location. I want you to put that speaker either behind you, where your past is, or further out, farther away, so you could still hear it if you needed it, but it's almost like putting it in storage. If you could take that recording and put it in storage, where would you put it? Behind you, out to the right, out to the left, how far out? Would you put it in a little box? Yes, you could bury it. Now, I want you to remember where you buried it in case you ever need this. Because your brain doesn't like to give up anything, so we're not going to ask it to give it up. We're just going to ask it to put it in storage. You know all that other stuff you have in storage?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have billions of bits of information in storage, so you could put this one in storage too. Okay? Now, take that location, wherever it was, and most of you, it was close. Because the things that run our lives, okay, the auditory, repetitive things that run our lives tend to be close. Now figure out what you could say to yourself in those situations that would actually be helpful. In those situations where you had that negative, critical self-talk and made yourself feel bad, what would actually be helpful for you to say to yourself? Sometimes it's as simple as, I'm okay. In fact, I'm going to teach you a little extra one. Okay? In acupuncture, the self point is on the middle of the sternum. So I want you to tap it, I'm okay. I want you to feather up very gently, it's not mine. Right? So if you're in a situation where you're getting blamed for something or criticized or yelled at and it's not you, this is a great one to do. I do this in committee meetings all the time. I'm okay, this is not mine. I didn't do this, I didn't create this, not my mess. I'm not even responsible for cleaning it up. I'm okay. Because what happens to us when somebody starts yelling or blaming? Yeah, we either take it and feel bad, or we get defensive and feel aggressive. And sometimes neither one of those states help. But it's good to recognize when it's not you, when you're still okay. You can also use this in situations where the stress would be grief or sadness. Because there are an occasion where you step over and you become that grief and that sadness of that other person. Okay? And that doesn't help you, and for the most time, it doesn't help them either because they need somebody who's resourceful. So I'm okay. Let's do it again together. I'm okay. It's not mine. Thank you. Okay, back to this location. Who has figured out something that would be good for them to say to themselves and put it in that exact spot? The location's important. It's important to you and your system. Anybody got one? Yes. I am awesome. Right. Now, I like that one. Okay. If you're doing something in which you don't feel awesome, okay, you could get yourself into an argument. You go, I feel awesome, I'm awesome, and then another voice pops up, and not now, not in this situation, right? So you want to keep I am awesome, right? And maybe figure out where to use that and when to use it, because it certainly is a good one. What if you actually made a mistake? What would you say to yourself? Mistakes happen. So how many would that work for? Mistakes happen. Yeah, so that's a good one to have here. There's no blame attached. Okay? And even when it's somebody's fault and you start blaming them or yourself, does it help? No. It's better to go after the solution than to spend time on the blame. Now, how are you going to say I'm awesome? Sarcastically? Oh, I'm awesome. You going to believe it? No. So you have to have the tone and the location, and the rest of it will fall in place. And I invite you who have a lot of critical self-talk, you know, you have like a whole library, okay, to go through a couple of these and start changing them and reorganizing them, and the rest start to move along. Okay, any question on that one? Prayer. So the soul part, the prayer part, the connection part, you know, that's a very individual thing, and I usually don't include it. Not that I don't think it's important. It's very hard at a medical school unless you're assigned to do this kind of talk to bring this in. And yet how important it is in our lives. And this is really about giving people the space, okay, to have whatever religious thoughts or whatever beliefs. Okay. And so instead of thinking about it in any organized way, I think if you think about it in a way that we connect. And how are the ways that we connect with each other? What's one of the most powerful ways to connect with somebody? Yes. If we could just learn to touch. Do you know, I have 2 licenses. I'm a licensed therapist, can't touch. I need permission to touch, have to be careful about touching. If I have to touch, I'm supposed to bring somebody else into the office. Right? I mean, it's just, and I learned when I was a teacher to hug. I actually had a supervising teacher who said to me, you have to touch the kids, Janet. I mean, nobody touched me. I don't think anybody touched me in high school. People didn't touch me in college. I just had a way to avoid all that. And she said, nope, get down to their level and touch and hug. This was special education, so touching and hugging was even more important. And I said, oh, well, that's what I have to do. That's what I have to do. It opened up a whole new world for me. Right? So I hugged most of my clients, and then these rules came out. Well, but I'm also a licensed acupuncturist. I'm licensed to touch. So I said, yeah, oh, I think you need a little acupressure over here. Right, okay. Because that connection, with permission. Right? So if there's a client or a friend who doesn't want to be touched, you don't touch. But that is so important. That's more the kinesthetic, but it also touches us spiritually. Yeah? And research even shows that we can touch people spiritually by prayer. We can send prayer as a group and have it affect people. And prayer isn't necessarily just that, rote thing that you learned wherever you learned your prayers. But prayer is hope. Well, prayer is sharing. Prayer is getting together. Prayer is forming a community. Well, we are a community, and sometimes we get so busy that we lose sight of that. Okay, this is one of my favorites, and for this, I need a volunteer. Do I have a volunteer? Somebody who has a feeling that a topic when you think about it makes you feel bad. Great. Okay, now. Yes. So, I'm going to show this from two positions, right, front. This is called, in acupuncture, this is called occipital hold. Right, there are no needles, so it's just a very light touch. It's not even pressure. I say acupressure, but this is acupressure without there's no pressure. It's just touch. Right? And I'm going to touch across her forehead and across the back of her occipital lobe, right back here. And that's all I'm going to do. It's a very gentle touch. Right? Now, in acupuncture, you have these bioelectrical fields, and you have pathways that run through the body. And quickly, we all know that the brain is electrical. Mm-hmm. Yes? Yes. Okay, we know the heart is electrical. Mm-hmm. We know the blood's electrical. If you don't, the blood has electrical components to it, the cells crossing the cell barrier. So every organ in your body has to have an electrical component to it to work with all the others. All acupuncture does is turn things off or shut things, turn things on or shut things off. It doesn't add anything to the body, it doesn't take anything away. It's a regulatory system. If you've got too much energy and your liver is stressed, it can turn that down. If you have too little and you're not producing what needs to be produced, you can hit the right points, it'll increase the activity. So they can give acupuncture for fertility treatments, where you want more activity, you want more blood, you want everything working at the right time, or they can give acupuncture post-surgical to calm things down. You need less medication, less blood flow, less problems post-surgical. So again, it's a regulatory. So with the acupressure, because you have a meridian that comes up the front and the back, and that's connected to all the others, and so we're using those two meridians to help balance this out. In order for that to work, you have to elicit the negative state. Otherwise, you're not clearing anything. This is called the clearing. So the person has to be willing to go into that which makes them uncomfortable, and just breathe, and the rest I hold. So what would this topic, could you give us a code name for it?
I can share it.
Okay.
I'm not good enough.
I'm not. Oh, I bet you can say that to yourself a lot. Okay. So we've got part of her self-talk and a whole history, because I can tell you this will have a whole history of all the incidents in her life that proved to her she wasn't good enough. Do you know where you learned that?
I'd rather not share that.
Okay, but you do know.
Yeah.
Good. So that's the incident I want you to go to. Yeah. I want you to breathe through that incident where you learned you weren't good enough. Because, you learned other things that you know aren't true now. So there's a good chance that you learned this one, and it's also not accurate. Just breathe through that. Yes, good. And then if something else pops up, another incident or situation that reinforce this misconception of you're not good enough, just breathe through that. That's right. And then let me know by moving one of your fingers when you feel like you could breathe through this thought easily. Okay, now let go. Yeah, want to share your experience without content?
It felt a bit freeing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So go back to the original experience. What happens when you think about that now?
It's not as powerful.
Uh-huh, good. Now this, because I'm going to put the two together, this thought you have, I'm not good enough. Do you know which ear you hear that in?
It's more back of the voice.
Okay, back of the voice. And whose voice is it back here on your left side?
That's part of the, I'd rather not.
Okay, so take that and now put it farther and farther away. Right, so you store it. If you ever need it, you could go get it, right? Right? And what would help you in those situations where you used to say, I'm not good enough, in somebody else's voice even? What could you say to yourself?
I'm a rock star.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, now, I want you to put that right back there. I'm a rock star. Okay? And for the rest of the day, if you would all help her install this, say, yeah, you're a rock star, and then have her listen again, because you have to practice the new message in order for it to be automatic. You know how when something becomes automatic because you've practiced it? You want to practice the new message until it's automatic. Got it? Great. Thank you. Okay. Any questions on how to do that? If I'm going to move ahead, and then if I get a chance to move back, we could actually practice this. But there we go. Okay, food. So this is a whole conference about, in some ways, food, exercise, lifestyle. Okay. So how many of you have a food that you feel you're addicted to?
I'm Italian.
Yes. So she's Italian, that's her excuse. You want to know what my excuse was? Mom worked in a bakery when I grew up. I had 4 food groups: cake, candy, ice cream, and soda. Those are my 4 food groups, and I had arthritis by the time I was 13. And not rheumatoid. The old people's, my bones were breaking down. Nobody knew why. Okay? And I went on like that till I was in my 20s. And then I said, oh my God, if I keep going this way, I'll be crippled by the time I'm 30. So I read every health book out. I hated them all. You know why? You see that bottom thing? It said, eat vegetables. Stop sugar, stop alcohol, stop smoking cigarettes, eat your vegetables. I hated vegetables. In fact, I covered vegetables with so much blue cheese, right, that I created an allergy to blue cheese. But it took me about 2 years, so by that time I could learn to eat vegetables. Right? The other thing I learned, do you know if you hold your nose when something don't taste good, you can't taste it. It's just like it's either crunchy or slippery, but most of the taste is gone. The taste is associated. So food is medicine, and if you don't like your vegetables, hold your nose, they'll go down. Right? But food has a lot to do with your stress level. So, the occipital touch, I want all of you, all right, to put the food that you can't resist, an image of it right out in front of you, as if you're sitting at a table about to Free to consume it if it was right there. Okay? Whatever it is. If it's French fries, if it's sweets, if it's just whatever you can get on your plate, as much as you can, if it's size. Whatever really sets off that urge, that craving, that I can't stop myself. How many of you got those? Put it on the table. Great. Look at it. Eyes open or shut, whichever way you can imagine it better. And do the occipital hold for yourself. And breathe through that urge, that craving, that drive. Some of you, it will come from your gut. Some of you, it will come from your head, behind your eyes. Some of you, it will be in your hands. You can't stop from reaching. So imagine all the things that you would do if that food was right in front of you, and then breathe. Very easy, very relaxed. Sometimes you might feel like you have to shake your head, go ahead. If you have to stamp your feet, stamp your feet. Just keep the occipital hold going and keep your breath going. Yeah. Some of you might have a tear or a tremor. That's fine. Yeah. Until you get almost like a sigh. I got through that. I'm okay. And then when you get to that place where you're okay, just come back. And while the others continue, anybody have anything to share on this? What your experience was, what happened? Right. Yeah, so it's helpful when I say it, so feel free to take my voice and put it in there. But it'll be just as helpful, maybe more so, when you say it. Do you need that? Well, sugar is addicting. You got all the latest on sugar, and okay, Dr. Lustig out in California, fed up. Dr. Lustig is on the internet, right? Lustig, you can look him up. He spends an hour and a half convincing people how addictive, sugar is. Lights up the same places cocaine does in your brain, right? Your body has to use nutrients in order to use refined sugar. So it puts you in a deficit. Besides which, it gives you cavities. My dentist used to give out candy. I have all the fillings to prove it. Okay. Exercise. I'm going to let all the other people. You got to find what works for you. Okay. So Dr. Hyman used to say, if you just parked your car far enough away and you made little extra movements during the day, you'd be okay. You wouldn't really need exercise. Well, he had to eat his words. Okay? And Mark now exercises. Yeah? So I was very glad when somebody in that position and that kind of influence could step back and say, hey, you know what? Okay? You need to exercise. Now, it needs to be fun. What can you do in a chair? Up, stretch. Stretch, stretch, you're in a chair. Turn to the left. Turn to the right. Pull your toes up towards you. Okay? You should be doing this. If you work at it, could stretch out without hitting your neighbor. See if you can do that. Back and forth, roll your arms. There's all kinds of things you can do in a chair. Okay? Make them up. Because we sit too long, and we sit too long in front of the computer, and it makes our brain spin and our body dull. Okay, acupressure. So, take your hand, slide it up. Yep. You're going to press it. Yeah. So, I'm going to find it for her. Yeah? Yeah. Yes, this is a headache point. You want it on this hand? Oh, yeah. You see that?
That hurt.
You get a ooh, a ah, or an ouch. And then you go light. All right? So I had to find the point. And if you have long nails, you have a little trouble. Then I go very gently, very gently. How's that now?
Yeah, a lot better. It hurt.
Yeah.
It really hurt.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Oh, there you go. Now I'm actually pressing harder than when I started. But the fact that I started gentle and came in,
no, I
the
can't.
body adjusts.
Yeah. Do you go at it hard first? No.
No, just enough to find the point.
Okay.
If I'd have pressed really hard, you'd have been really unhappy with me. Okay? It doesn't matter, it's on both hands. You're bilateral. The other one I put on here is the outside point. You just slide it down to the top of your ankle. Okay? That's a back point. So I figured head point, back point. Okay? Because we get a lot of backaches. Yeah, you just take that. Okay, slide it down. It's right on the bone. It'll be a ooh, a ah. Mine's an ah. Okay, last week it would have been an ouch. Okay. Yeah, now the other one over there, that's for the women in the room. However, when I used to work with police departments, and they were mostly men, I used to teach this to the men in the class. Why? Because it's good for menstrual cramps. And your wife will love you if you learn this point, or your girlfriend will love you if you learn this point. And so it's on the inside. Oops, is my time up? Yes, okay.